Warning ignored. The Galactic Council Chamber was the grandest hall in the galaxy. Its walls shimmered with glowing crystals, reflecting the voices of 100 different species gathered in one place. Here, laws were written, wars were ended, and empires were judged. Tonight, however, the chamber was filled with laughter. At the center of the hall, an old alien elder stood trembling. His skin was pale and cracked with age, his large eyes heavy with knowledge. He had lived longer than most civilizations, and he carried warnings carved by centuries of memory. His voice, though weak, echoed through the chamber. "They are not what you think," the elder warned. "The species from the planet called Earth, these humans, they are dangerous." The crowd responded with murmurs, whispers, and then mocking laughter. A tall, scaled diplomat from the powerful Seraph Empire leaned forward and hissed. "Dangerous? They are a primitive race. Their planet is small, their weapons crude, and their fleets laughable. You speak as if they could challenge the stars." The elder shook his head slowly. His long fingers curled around his staff, as if holding himself upright against the weight of his own fear. "You do not understand. I have studied their history. I have seen the scars of their world. They fight not for glory, not for conquest, but because survival is written in their blood. Push them too far, and you will awaken a storm you cannot control." More laughter filled the chamber. A representative from the Threx Dominion slammed his clawed hand on the desk. "You speak of legends and myths. A savage people with iron sticks and old war machines cannot threaten the great powers of this galaxy. If they rise, we will crush them before they take a step." The elder's voice grew desperate. "You think of strength as numbers. You think of war as ships and firepower. But humans fight differently. They fight with everything: rage, love, despair, hope. They turn weakness into strength. They make weapons out of desperation. And when united, they do not break." The laughter turned cruel. Some alien diplomats imitated humans by clenching their fists or growling in mock anger. Others whispered jokes about Earth being a backward planet of beasts. The elder's words were swallowed by arrogance, but not everyone was laughing. In the shadows of the chamber, a few young delegates sat silently. They exchanged uneasy glances. Something in the elder's tone, something in the way his eyes glistened with fear, made them shiver. The council leader, a massive figure with golden armor, finally stood and silenced the chamber with a single gesture. His deep voice carried authority. "We have heard your warning, Elder, but the council will not waste its time fearing a species that has barely left its own system. Humans are insignificant. Let them grow if they can. The galaxy has no reason to tremble." The elder closed his eyes. His voice dropped to a whisper, almost lost in the echoes. "You laugh now, but one day you will remember these words, and when you do, it will be too late." The session ended. The great doors of the chamber opened, and the delegates filed out, still laughing, still mocking the warning. The hall that had once echoed with the elder's trembling words now pulsed, with arrogance and disbelief. Outside the council chamber, stars burned silently, as if watching and waiting. Beyond those stars, on a small blue planet circling an ordinary sun, humanity continued to grow, quiet, restless, and unaware that their name had just been spoken in the halls of power. But deep within the elder's heart there was no laughter, only fear. He had seen civilizations rise and fall. He had witnessed empires collapse under the weight of their own pride. And he knew, when the humans struck, they would strike with a fury the galaxy had never known. The council ignored him. The warning was forgotten, but destiny had already begun to move. The first encounter. The first encounter began not with greetings, but with shadows. From the dark stretch of space near Earth's orbit, dozens of alien warships appeared. Their hulls were black and jagged like floating knives pointed at the blue planet below. Engines glowed red, casting streaks across the void. They came from the Seraph Empire, the loudest voice in the council that had mocked the Elder's warning. The Seraph commander stood on his bridge, confident. His scales shimmered under the lights, his sharp teeth bared in a smile. Around him, officers barked orders and laughed as if this mission were a game. "Humans," he growled, "will learn their place today. We will take their world before they can crawl into the stars." On Earth, alarms echoed through every command center. Satellites caught the sudden arrival of the fleet. Nations panicked, but there was no chaos. Humanity had expected this. For months, quiet whispers of alien attention had reached the highest levels of governments. Plans had been drawn in secret, fleets built in silence. At a hidden base deep in the Pacific Ocean, a massive hangar opened. From its depths rose the first of Earth's new starships, sleek and silver, unlike anything the galaxy had seen from them before. It carried no grand banners, no threats painted across its hull. Just the silent emblem of humanity, the Earth itself, rising from the dark. The Serath commander laughed when his scanners picked up the lone ship. "One ship? Is this their answer?" His crew laughed with him. The galaxy's greatest predators, reduced to mockery. But the human ship did not retreat, it advanced. Slowly, deliberately, it positioned itself between Earth and the alien armada. On the bridge of that ship stood Captain Arik Hale, a man who had fought in wars before humanity ever left its atmosphere. His face was calm, his eyes steady. He knew his ship was outnumbered. He also knew that fear could break stronger enemies than firepower ever could. "Open the channel," Hale ordered. A thin hum filled the air as communication linked. The Serath commander's scaled face appeared on the screen, twisted into a grin. "Human," he hissed, "surrender your world. We come as masters. Kneel, and your species may live as servants." Hale did not flinch. "You came into our skies without permission. You threaten our home. You believe we will bow because you have numbers, but you made a mistake." He leaned forward, voice sharp as steel. "You underestimated us." Before the alien could reply, the human ship moved. It did not fire massive beams or unleash endless missiles. Instead, it released a burst of electronic warfare so powerful it blinded the Serath fleet. Their systems flickered, sensors went dark, engines stuttered. In the confusion, the human ship struck with precision. 1, 2, 3 hits, not to destroy, but to disable. Enemy ships drifted helpless, their power stripped away. The laughter on the Serath bridge turned into chaos. Officers screamed, alarms blared, and the commander's smile vanished. "How?" he roared. On Earth, people watched in silence from secret observatories. For the first time, the world saw that their preparations were not in vain. Humanity had faced giants before, empires, tyrants, invaders, and survived. This was no different. The single ship held its ground against an empire's fleet, and though it could not destroy them all, it proved something far greater. Humanity would not break. Humanity would not bow. The council chambers, light years away, received the reports within hours. Holograms of crippled Serath warships flickered before the gathered delegates. The same hall that once roared with laughter now trembled with whispers. Some delegates scoffed, claiming it was luck. Others leaned back in uneasy silence, remembering the elders' words. They fight differently. They do not break. The Serath Empire swore revenge. They promised to return with greater numbers. But a seed had been planted in the galaxy's mind. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was something else, something the galaxy could not yet name, but already feared. And in the quiet of his quarters, Captain Hale looked out the window of his ship, watching Earth below. He did not smile, he did not celebrate. He only whispered to himself, knowing what was coming. This was only the first encounter. The silent build-up after the first encounter, the galaxy could not stop whispering about Earth. The Serath Empires, defeat at the hands of a single human ship, became the most watched recording in Council history. It spread from one star system to another like wildfire. On remote colonies, miners played it on cracked screens, watching with wide eyes as a fragile-looking vessel humiliated a fleet of warships. Merchants in trade hubs repeated the story with every sail. Even pirates in hidden outposts joked nervously that perhaps humans were more dangerous than the Council had believed, but Earth itself remained silent. Months passed. No human delegates appeared in the Council chambers. No new transmissions came from their homeworld. The great hall that once echoed with laughter now carried an unease every time Earth's name was spoken. Yet still, most rulers mocked the idea. They convinced themselves that the first encounter had been nothing more than luck, a trick, a glitch in alien technology. Humans cannot build power so quickly, one ambassador argued. They are young, clumsy, and divided. They will break under real pressure. But spies told a different story. Reports began to leak into the Council. Shipyards rising in the oceans, massive construction hidden beneath mountains, factories glowing late into the night. Strange energy readings pulsed from the Moon and Mars colonies. Probes sent near Earth vanished without explanation. The Serath Empire tried to dismiss these rumors, yet in secret, they doubled their fleets. Other empires quietly began preparing too, in case humanity truly rose beyond their expectations. Still, no one dared admit their fear in public. Pride was louder than caution. Meanwhile, humanity prepared in silence. On Earth, world leaders met in hidden rooms, bound by a unity the galaxy had never imagined. Old rivalries faded. Enemies became allies. Nations that once fought bitter wars now shared resources, research, and soldiers. Humanity, for the first time in history, stood as one. Captain Arik Hale, the man who had faced the Serath fleet, became a symbol. His image appeared in underground posters, whispered through secure channels. But he was not alone. Thousands of engineers, scientists, and soldiers worked together, building weapons not just of destruction but of survival. In the Pacific, underwater shipyards birthed vessels shaped like predators of the deep, armed with rail cannons and cloaked in advanced armor. On the deserts of Africa, launch platforms lifted massive freighters disguised as cargo ships but designed for war. On Mars, domes pulsed with experimental energy reactors, the kind of power no alien had ever seen. But humanity's greatest strength was not just their machines, it was their minds. Where the Council saw war as tradition and pride, humans saw war as necessity. Every battle in their history had taught them how to adapt, how to survive. They turned old lessons into new tactics, transforming fear into creativity. They studied the recordings of alien fleets, analyzing every weakness, every pattern, and, in secret simulations, they prepared for wars they had not yet fought. Still, Earth did not move first. Alien fleets patrolled the edge of the solar system, daring humanity to make a mistake. Spies lurked in nearby sectors, waiting for signs of weakness. But humanity remained quiet, silent, patient. The Council grew restless. Some demanded action, claiming that letting Earth grow unchecked was too dangerous. Others argued that humans would destroy themselves without help. Yet no one dared send another fleet after the failure of the Serath, and so, tension grew like a storm waiting to break. One night, in the dark chamber of the Council, the elder who had once warned them spoke again. His voice was weary, his eyes heavy with sorrow. You still laugh. You still dismiss them. But cannot you feel it? The silence is not weakness. It is the sound of a predator waiting to strike. The chamber fell quiet. No one laughed this time. But no one admitted fear either. Pride still ruled. Far away on the bridge of his ship orbiting Earth, Captain Hale looked out into the endless stars. His officers reported growing fleets at the edges of human territory, hostile empires preparing for war. But Hale was calm. They are watching us, one officer whispered. They think we are waiting because we are afraid. Hale shook his head. His voice was steady. No. We are waiting because when we move, we will not stop. The silence of Earth continued. The galaxy grew more uneasy with each passing day. And though no shot had yet been fired, everyone felt it. Something was coming. The buildup was no longer invisible. It was the shadow that stretched across the stars. The strike back begins. The silence finally broke. It happened far from Earth, in a quiet sector where small colonies lived under the shadow of the Serath Empire. For years, those colonies had been forced to pay heavy tribute, resources, workers, even children taken as slaves. The Serath called it order. The colonists called it chains. And then one day, the chains snapped. Without warning, the stars above that sector lit up. Dozens of human warships emerged from hidden jump points. They were not the clumsy crafts the Council had imagined. These were sleek, fast, and sharp-edged vessels designed for war. Their hulls carried no decorations, only the cold steel of purpose. At Gi, their lead was Captain Arakale's ship. His voice carried through every channel, calm but unyielding. "To the enslaved worlds," he said, "you are free. To the Serath forces, leave or fall." The Serath commander laughed when he heard the message. His fleet was 3 times larger than the humans. He had heavy cruisers, destroyers, carriers bristling with weapons. In his arrogance, he thought victory was already his. But the battle did not go as he expected. The first human salvo came like lightning, precise, deadly, and unexpected. Instead of targeting shields or armor, they struck engines, communication arrays, and power cores. One by one, Serath ships went dark, left drifting helplessly in space. The Serath commander roared in rage, ordering his remaining ships forward. But the humans fought like no species the galaxy had ever seen. They did not hold rigid formations like the Council navies. They moved with fluid coordination, adapting every second. Smaller ships darted between the massive Serath cruisers, striking weak points before vanishing. Larger human vessels acted as shields, drawing enemy fire and retaliating with brutal precision. And then came humanity's newest weapon. From Hale's flagship, a massive rail cannon fired. The projectile was nothing more than a spear of metal, but it traveled faster than any shield could react. It tore through a Serath battleship, slicing it apart in seconds. The explosion lit the sector like a new sun. The enslaved colonies below watched with wide eyes. For the first time in generations, the Serath were not gods of war. They were prey. Cheers erupted from hidden bunkers as the sky filled with burning fragments of alien ships. The Council chamber received the battle reports in silence. Holograms showed Serath fleets collapsing under human strikes. The same delegates who once mocked Earth now leaned forward, their faces pale with disbelief. "This cannot be real," one whispered. "It is propaganda," another argued, though his hands shook. But the truth was undeniable. Humanity had struck back, and they had not done so recklessly. They had chosen their target carefully. Not a stronghold of power, not a council fleet, but a place where tyranny was at its worst. By freeing colonies instead of conquering them, humans sent a message louder than any weapon. They were not invaders. They were liberators. In the council, some races felt hope for the first time. Others felt fear. And the Serath Empire, once so arrogant, demanded revenge. They called for an alliance to crush Earth before it rose any further. But deep down, in the silence between voices, many delegates remembered the elders' words. They fight with everything: rage, love, despair, hope. On his flagship, Captain Hale stood at the viewing window, staring at the drifting wreckage of Serath ships. His officers were celebrating, but Hale did not. His eyes were heavy, his voice quiet. "This is only the beginning," he said. "They will come for us now, with everything they have." The crew fell silent. They knew he was right. The strike back had begun, and there was no turning back. In the distance, the freed colonies sent their first signal of thanks to Earth. Their voices trembled with joy but also fear, because they knew what the Serath would do next. And in that moment, across the galaxy, every empire realized the same truth. Humanity was no longer silent. Humanity had taken its first step into galactic war. Fear in the Council, The council chamber no longer echoed with laughter. Where once arrogant voices mocked the elders' warnings, now silence ruled. Holograms of burning Serath warships floated in the air, their wreckage scattering like broken teeth across the stars. The reports were undeniable. Humans had not only fought back, they had won. And worse, they had freed entire colonies without demanding tribute. Delegates shifted nervously in their seats. Some avoided eye contact. Others whispered in low tones, their voices heavy with fear. "This is impossible," said a Threx Dominion general, his mandibles clicking in frustration. "No young race should be able to fight at this level. The Serath fleets are some of the strongest in the galaxy." "Strongest?" an ambassador sneered. "Then why do their ships drift like scrap metal while humans raise banners of freedom? Perhaps the Serath are not so mighty after all." The Serath representative slammed his clawed fist against the desk, scales rippling with rage. "Do not insult us. This was treachery, not strength. Humans use tricks, cowards' tactics. They cannot stand against a real war." The elder rose slowly from his corner, his frail figure casting a long shadow. His voice, though quiet, cut through the chamber like a blade. "And yet they did. You called them weak, but they fought with precision. You called them primitive, but they wield weapons you cannot understand. You called them divided, but now they stand united. Still, you refuse to see what is in front of you." The chamber grew uneasy. Some delegates lowered their eyes, ashamed to remember their laughter months earlier. One younger delegate, her scales pale with fear, spoke softly. "They freed the colonies. They did not enslave them. They did not demand tribute. Tell me, what kind of conqueror acts with such restraint?" The words spread like ripples in water. Some nodded. Others clenched their jaws, because the truth was clear. Humans were not acting like tyrants. They were acting like something far more dangerous: leaders. The council leader finally stood. His golden armor glowed under the chamber lights, but even he could not hide the tremor in his voice. "This is no longer a question of warnings or arrogance. Humanity is not a minor species anymore. They have become a force we must consider." Murmurs filled the chamber. Some demanded alliances against Earth. Others whispered of negotiations, fearing that war would bring destruction to all. The Serath delegation shouted above the noise, "No, there will be no peace. They have humiliated us, broken our fleets, and insulted our pride. The Serath Empire will answer with fire, and if this council refuses to act, then we will act alone." But even as he spoke, doubt crept into their eyes. The Serath had always been feared, but now they were the ones trembling. Humanity had wounded their pride and shattered their aura of invincibility. The elder raised his staff, voice echoing in final warning. "Do you not see it? The humans do not fight as you fight. They do not conquer as you conquer. They are something new, and every battle you bring to them will only make them stronger." Silence followed. Heavy, suffocating silence. In private chambers after the meeting, delegates argued endlessly. Some demanded embargoes, cutting off resources to Earth. Others suggested appeasement, offering humans seats of power in the council before they grew too dangerous. But beneath every argument, the same fear lingered. What if it was already too late? Meanwhile, far from the council, in hidden stations orbiting Earth, human fleets continued to grow. Engineers tested weapons in silence, soldiers drilled in shadows, and diplomats remained quiet. Humanity spoke only through action, and every action struck fear into the galaxy's heart. On his ship, Captain Arik Hale read intercepted council reports. He knew the aliens were divided, unsure whether to fear, fight, or befriend humanity. He turned to his crew and spoke calmly. "They argue about us. They laugh, then they fear, then they argue again. But the truth is simple. The galaxy does not yet understand what it means to be human." His words carried through the room, steady and unshakable. "They will learn." And so the council trembled. For the first time in centuries, the great powers of the galaxy were not laughing, not boasting, not secure in their dominance. For the first time, they were afraid. Humanity's message, the council chamber, was tense. Weeks had passed since the Serath defeat, yet the galaxy still buzzed with shock. Rumors spread faster than light. Colonies freed, fleets shattered, humans building weapons in secret. Every empire feared the same thing. What would Earth do next? Then one day the Council received a transmission. It was brief. It carried no threats, no grand speeches, only a simple line. Humanity requests to speak. The chamber filled within. Hours. Delegates crowded the hall, their faces strained with unease. For decades, humans had been silent, absent from galactic politics. Now, for the first time, their voice would be heard. The great doors opened, and a figure walked in. He was not tall like the towering Serath, nor armored like the Threx generals. He wore no crown, no golden robes. He was just a man in a dark uniform, Captain Arik Hale. The chamber erupted with whispers. Some mocked the humans for sending a soldier instead of a diplomat. Others stared in silence, sensing the weight in his presence. Hale walked calmly to the center, his boots echoing against the crystal floor. He looked around at the gathered species, their glowing eyes, their strange bodies, their expressions twisted with fear and arrogance. Then he spoke. Months ago, Hale began, his voice steady. You laughed when one of your own warned you about us. You called us primitive, weak, divided. And when the Serath came to our skies, you expected us to kneel. He paused, letting the silence deepen. No one interrupted. But we did not kneel. We fought. And we won. Not because we wanted war, but because you forced it upon us. You wanted to test us. You wanted to control us. And now you see the truth. You cannot. The Serath representative snarled. Arrogant human. You freed colonies that belonged to us. You attacked fleets that guarded our territories. You dare. Hale's gaze cut him down before the words could finish. No, we freed slaves. We defended lives. You call them your colonies. We call them people. And we will never stand by while tyranny rules this galaxy. Gasps rippled across the chamber. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably, others lowered their eyes. Hale continued, his voice rising like thunder. Understand this. Humanity did not come here to beg for mercy or to demand conquest. We came to remind you of something you have forgotten, that freedom matters, that no empire has the right to crush the weak. We will not be slaves, and we will not allow others to remain slaves while we have the strength to fight. The chamber was silent, heavy with the weight of his words. The elder, standing in the shadows, closed his eyes. At last, the warning he had carried for so long was no longer ignored. Humanity had spoken for itself. The Threx general growled, trying to regain control. You dare threaten the council itself? Hale's expression did not change. We threaten no one. But know this. If you come for us, we will meet you. If you enslave others, we will fight you. And if you believe we will ever break, then you have already lost. For a moment, no one breathed. Even the Serath delegation stayed silent. Their rage drowned beneath a growing fear. Then Hale's final words rang through the chamber, calm but unshakable. You warned the galaxy about us. You laughed. Now remember this instead. Humanity does not strike first, but when we strike back, we do not stop. With that, he turned and walked out of the chamber, leaving only silence behind. No one laughed. Not a single voice mocked. For the first time in the Council's long history, the galaxy felt the weight of Earth's message. And in that silence, fear turned into something else. Respect, a new order. The Council chamber had never been so quiet. Hours had passed since Captain Arik Hale's departure, yet his words still echoed like thunder through the vast crystalline hall. No delegate dared speak first. The same chamber that once rang with laughter and arrogance now felt like a tomb. Outside, the galaxy shifted, reports poured in. Colonies once ruled by the Serath now celebrated their freedom. Entire mining worlds sent messages of gratitude to Earth, pledging friendship and trade instead of tribute. In distant sectors, oppressed species secretly prepared to rise, inspired by the humans' defiance. Even within the Serath Empire, cracks began to show. Governors questioned their high command. Soldiers whispered about humanity's unstoppable courage. Some desertions were already being reported, something unheard of in Serath history. Inside the council, fear turned to debate. Delegates argued in harsh, hurried tones. "We must crush them now before they grow stronger," demanded a Threx general, his eyes burning with alarm. "Crush them?" Another delegate scoffed. "We already tried through the Serath. You saw the result." Others, quieter but no less determined, urged a different path. "Perhaps we should speak with them," one said softly. "If we offer partnership instead of war, perhaps they will not see us as enemies." The elder who had once warned them sat silently, listening. A faint smile touched his worn face. Finally he rose, leaning on his staff. "You speak of fear," he said, his voice carrying through the hall. "But what you feel is respect. You mocked my warnings, yet every word has come true. Humanity fights not for power but for freedom. You cannot crush such a force. You can only stand beside it, or be swept away by it." No one laughed this time. The delegates, once proud and untouchable, now lowered their eyes like children scolded by truth. Far across space, Earth itself changed too. For the first time in history, nations worked as one. Old borders faded. Human fleets grew not as symbols of conquest, but as shields for those who had none. Scientists shared breakthroughs across continents, building engines and medicines that could cross galaxies. On his flagship above Earth, Captain Eric Hale stood with his crew, watching the stars. New alliances formed each day. Former Serath, colonies sending offers of friendship, independent worlds requesting protection. Humanity's name now meant hope for some, warning for others. Hale spoke quietly to his officers. "We did not choose this path to rule. We chose it so no world will suffer chains again. But we must stay ready. Power invites envy, and envy invites war." Back in the council chamber, the decision was finally spoken. The council leader, his golden armor no longer shining with arrogance, addressed the assembly. "The age of ignoring Earth is over. From this day, humanity will be offered a permanent seat among the great powers. We will treat them as equals, or we will face a galaxy none of us can control." A deep silence followed. Then, slowly, one by one, delegates nodded. Not all agreed, out of goodwill. Some agreed out of survival. But all understood the truth. The order of the galaxy had changed. The elder closed his eyes, a quiet peace in his heart. The storm he had foreseen had arrived, but it was not the chaos he once feared. It was something new, a balance forged not from domination, but from courage. From that day forward, no council meeting began without an empty seat reserved for humanity. A symbol of respect and quiet warning. The laughter that once greeted Earth's name was gone forever. And among the stars, oppressed worlds whispered a single promise. If humans could rise, so can we. Captain Eric Hale watched the sun rise over Earth from his command deck. The light spilled across oceans and cities, a blue and gold glow that reached into the void. He thought of the battles still to come, of the fragile peace, and the enemies who would surely test it. But he also thought of something stronger than fear, the will of a united world. The unbroken spirit of a species that refused to bow. His final words to his crew were simple, but they carried across the galaxy like a vow. "We are ready. Whatever